Hey everyone, I'm Max from Slayer Game Studio, and today I'm going to be teaching you the basic outline of how to play Ruins of Roguewood, my newest title. So, cracking open the box, you'll find 3 decks of cards. First is the Encounter deck, and then the Equipment deck, and finally, the smallest one, the Ore deck. Also found in the box is a red 8-sided die for morale, and a yellow 20-sided die for gold. Lastly are 9 tracker cubes. Be sure to keep the quick reference guide handy for setups with different amounts of players. First things first, grab the equipment deck and separate all of the card types. Some of these cards won't be available for first draw, and others will be required. The first step is to give the 2 pickaxes to 2 players at the table. It's a group vote, and obviously, if there's only 2, each of you get one. Next is to look over the quick reference card and remove cards from the equipment deck. After removal, take the rest of the cards, shuffle, and deal them according to the guide. Setup is highly fluid dependent on the number of players and how difficult you want the game to be. Although standard setup dictates everyone gets 2 equipment cards, including players that already have a pickaxe card. They technically have 3. After everyone's gotten their starting equipment cards, shuffle together all of the remaining ones and set them aside for later use. For the ore cards, all you need to do for now is shuffle all of them together and set them near the equipment deck for later use. We'll go over them more later. Now finally, and most crucially, let's set up the encounter deck. As mentioned plenty of times before, the Quick Start Guide will give you all the information you need on creating a balanced deck recommended for your amount of players. All of the cards you're told to pull from the main deck will be added in again later, so keep them nearby, but separate, just to make sure you can tell the difference. Lastly, the dice setup. These aren't used to roll in this game. They track certain stats. For instance, the red is started at the highest value, 8. Be sure to keep these dice in a place that is both accessible and safe from wandering elbows. Anyway, you'll want to take the D20, set it to the 1 side, and place it down right next to the D8. That one is for your gold. Both of these are integral to the game. Before we really begin, let's do one final check. Both of the encounter decks are set up and separated. Both of the dice are in an accessible but clear area. You have the chips set off to the side, and the ore and equipment decks have been shuffled and placed appropriately. Keep the active encounter deck towards the left side of the play area because you'll be drawing and placing to the right. Alright, let's go over some quick equipment tips. There are essentially 2 types of equipment cards, those that are consumable and break after 1 use, and those that can be repaired with specific ore types. Now, these tracker cubes are actually used to show how many uses a piece of equipment has left before it breaks. Once it goes off the track, below the X, it is discarded back into the deck. However, before that point, you can repair it with the indicated ore on the card, bringing it back to full use. The ingot ore type is the most common and plentiful in the deck, and the most used on equipment. Although some cards have unique interactions with other types of ore. The staff, for instance, still must be repaired with ingots, but to use requires one of the 3 crystal types that you can find in the ore deck as well, each of them giving a unique effect upon use. And now, for some encounter tips. Let's have a quick anatomy lesson. The front and center has the name and icon of the encounter, and if there's a red number here, this is the number of damage to deal to remove it from the game. The green text up top is a little bit of flavor text, and the yellow is functional text. Looking at this guy, for example, the pickaxe does double damage when he's hit with it. So, even though the pickaxe usually does 1 damage, it would be an instant kill to this card in particular. Note that not all encounter cards are monsters. Sometimes they have effects that are good or bad depending on if you complete them or not, and how. And remember, Violence might not always be the answer. There's more than one way to deal with every card. Alright, after a crash course on cards and setup, you're ready to start playing. The actual rounds are broken up into phases, with Phase 1 being a new draw from the encounter deck. Depending on the number of players and personal preference per game, you draw a certain number of cards from the encounter deck, laying all of them out. No matter the size of the draw for the game, the final card drawn is always left face down. All players in a group must agree on removing one card from the table, and then the hidden card is revealed and must be resolved in combination with all others. Now, a quick side note, you can actually remove the face down card if that's what your team wants. That moves directly into Phase 2, where all players work together to resolve the cards at the table. Each player can do one thing with no turn order. They can hand an item to another player or use one of their cards for an encounter. In this hand, one player chooses to use their sword on the lockbox to break it and take the item inside. The other player wishes to use their pickaxe on the stone scrungle, which, as mentioned earlier, takes double damage from pickaxes. A quick and efficient round with a reward at the end for the player that opened the lockbox. And it seems in this case, the sword player got themselves another sword. This could be a saving grace if they had no means of repairing the first one. Side note, before players lock in their actions for the phase, check the cards on the table for any interactions between one another. They might just resolve one another and discard both at the same time. Limited moves and interactions lead to intentionally tough decisions. Sometimes you just have to tank damage in order to get what you need for the next round. Although, negative effects go deeper than morale damage. As you can see here, this one also affects weapon degradation. Phase 3 is entered after every player has taken their action. Any cards left on the table deal the negative repercussions as written. Morale damage is dealt, and the effects are gained. Unless explicitly stated otherwise, all encounters are discarded, regardless of if they're defeated or not, by the end of the phase. After all the players have checked their decks and made sure they're ready, you move on to Phase 1 once again until the entire encounter deck has been depleted. Once the final encounter card has been discarded, the whole table enters an intermission phase where you tally up all your score. If players have gold or treasure chests, they're discarded and tallied up on the gold tracker die. Important to mention, for the flow of gameplay, gold is only tallied up between encounter decks, as you have a chance of losing or using it for other purposes while you're still in there. After the appropriate cards have been discarded, players are free to trade hands, use items, and repair tools before the next round begins. If you haven't hit the victory condition of 20 gold, you must set up the next encounter deck for the next run. If the win condition of 20 gold has not yet been hit, you must set up the encounter deck for the next round. Remember that set of encounter cards you removed from the deck and set aside at the beginning? Well, now you get to add a couple of them to the main deck and reshuffle. Be sure to check the quick guide to make sure you're adding the right amount of cards at the right time. Now, a quick but important reminder. While the encounter deck has a discard pile, the equipment and ore decks do not. They rotate instead, meaning when an item for the corresponding deck is used, it is placed in the bottom of the deck instead of a separate pile. This keeps the decks rotating and fresh without players having to reshuffle every time they replace a card. It's a simple rule, but easy to forget and necessary for the flow of the game. Keep it in mind. Lastly, for quick clarification on the victory conditions, the red die, the morale die, is changed as you go through the encounter deck. If it hits 0 at any point, the game is over instantly. The gold die, however, can only be interacted with and added to between encounter decks. Alright, now that you've gone through this video tutorial, I hope you've enjoyed and have enough information to get started playing Ruins of Roguewood. After about 2 years of on and off development, I'm both confident and excited in this final version. It's going to be a staple for your table. I just know it. I hope you have fun and enjoy creating your own decks and challenges in this game on top of the ones I've included. Good luck out there, and I hope you and your table of adventurers have an excellent time in the ruins of Roguewood.